God was not done with his unusual visitations and divine interruptions. He showed up again, not in a little town among some obscure faithful. God went even farther this time and caught the attention of some wise fellows. It was another announcement, another call, not one-on-one, but a group of people all at the same time. Prompted by that encounter, the wise folks banded together and abandoned all that was on their to-do list. They set out to answer the call and confirm the signal they received from God. Let's assume you are at work and God shows up in whatever form that pleases him to reveal a secret to you, something he just did or is about to do. What are you going to do? Will you be spooked by this crazy God that bursts into people's lives and interrupts their well-planned routines? Will you bury your head in the sand of duty to knock off any signal of a calling that proceeds from that encounter? Will you drop what you're doing and jump in with God? It comes across easier when we hear about others who abandon everything to follow God. We admire their courage until it gets to our turn and the same or similar call is placed upon us. Suddenly, we realize there is so much at stake that to answer or not to answer, to go or not to go is a tough choice to make after all. Thank God these wise folks left everything and followed God through his sign. They gave up everything to be a part of what God was doing at the time. A very high price for an equally high call with God. The beauty of their commitment lies in their persistence, even when it appeared that God disappeared on them. They didn't give up. After giving up everything to follow God, now in the middle of nowhere, without a hint of warning, God's guiding star abandoned them, or so it seemed. Yet they didn't abandon the call. They kept pressing on. We've come too far to go back now. We've given up too much to return empty. We burned the bridge behind already, so we have left ourselves no other choice than to keep going forward. Among themselves and within each heart represented, they convinced themselves that this call was nothing short of God's, that the star was not a fluke. God's hand was upon it. How he guided them up to that point wasn't coincidence. God is faithful to us, and he's too faithful to fail us now. They agreed. He will finish what he started with us. Based on that resolve, although they didn't have all the details of which way to go, they took the way they could see ahead and kept going forward. Although they didn't know what to do at that point, they did the only thing they could. They asked questions. Get your journal. Let's think a bit. What do you do when you feel that God has disappointed you? When all the signs announce that whatever you are listening to or following is not real and cannot be trusted, that God has abandoned you for good, that the call was just a phantom, that the promise was only a mirage, too good to be true, and that's probably why God has bailed, that God could not keep his part of the deal, that he has failed. What will you do when your circumstances are dredging up all the reasons why your call was a freak accident you should have ignored? That your sacrifices are wasted and your obedience was actually foolishness on your part? That God does not exist, and even if by some chance he does, he cannot be trusted? Look back at instances where you think that God failed you. How did that feel and what did you do about it? What is the truth that you know now about God and the way he works? What will you do if similar experiences show up again in the future? As you think through these questions, make sure to document this journey in your journal. The folks in this story may have been confused and alarmed at the disappearance of that trusted star, but they didn't give up. They didn't turn back. They kept pressing forward, and guess what? God will use the most unlikely people in the most unlikely places to provide what you need to keep you going. As you continue to press one step after the other, despite the confusion and doubt and whatever other feelings may be roiling your emotions, God will show up for you like that star showed up for the persistent wise folks. But you have to do your part. Believe and move forward. Keep believing and keep pressing forward. The wise folks paused to ask questions among themselves to which they may not have found the answers, but they kept going. They paused to ask others, but they kept going and kept asking until they got enough answers to discern their next step. When we don't know the way forward, it is easier to go back because that is a familiar road. It is harder to keep going forward when you don't have what you need to keep you going. But what we forget is that whichever way we choose, it will still cost the same, if not more, to go back than to keep pressing on. And hope is always ahead, not behind. It's okay to pause if you're not sure what next, but it's not okay to give up. It's okay to ask questions on the way forward, but it's not okay to go backward. When they continue to press forward with whatever information they had gathered, the star reappeared, guiding them to their destination. It wasn't really the information they got in their detour that got them there. It was God still. Unknown to them, that detour into Jerusalem was necessary. It alerted those who needed to know and set off chains of reactions so that scriptures can be fulfilled. By profession, I am an engineer and a consultant. On the side, I am an author, a speaker, a singer, photographer, and any other things you can throw into that bucket. I pretty much could figure out how my life would go up to retirement until God led me on a detour. Here I am making videos because God instructed me to. It was not easy starting out because I knew nothing about it. Initially, I struggled, but because of this word, I kept pressing on. Every day, I serve God my best by doing what I know. And every day, I am graced to learn new things on this journey, to grow and to keep improving this skill that not long ago I knew absolutely nothing about. I remember asking God that if this process won't be easy, to at least make it fun. Because if I can enjoy it, I'll do it with all my heart, whatever the cost. And I am grateful to say He answered that prayer. Today, I'm excited to serve God through this avenue. The journey to answer the call before us may be tough and unclear at the beginning, but with every step of obedience comes direction and clarity and an outpouring of His anointing that enables us to accomplish what once seemed impossible. God doesn't have to explain the reason for every detour to us, but we must trust that nothing that comes our way as we walk with God is a coincidence. God is working behind the scenes of every challenge and is in control of the outcome. The same God who started the journey for the wise folks finished it when their job on the detour was done and they stepped back out and pressed on. On our journey to answer the call, we will hit snag points where we feel alone, discouraged, confused, abandoned, helpless, useless, and all the negative emotions you can imagine toward ourselves, toward God, and toward others. The negative emotions are not the problem. The real problem is what you do when those emotions build up, ready to erupt. What will you do when circumstances back you into a corner where you can't seem to get out of and God appears nowhere in sight to help? I hope you will not throw in the towel and give up. I hope you will not turn back to what you left behind. I hope you will press on and keep going forward. I hope that you will always remember that hope is always ahead and never behind. I hope that will inspire you to pick up yourself and press on. I hope that will motivate you to dust up doubts and keep pushing until you find and enjoy and become more than you could have ever dreamed or asked for. Check out the links and scriptures below for additional help. Feel free to share your thoughts and answers in the comments. Be inspired. You are a star, and it's your time to shine. Join me in the next video, still on this series of divine interruption, as we learn how to make history with God.